Great. Hello, everyone.
Welcome. I'm just going to make this PowerPoint full screen so you can see that. All right, so we should have audio and a PowerPoint presentation in front of you. If you can't see that, give us a shout in the chat function. I think we're ready to kick off.
Let's go.
Welcome everyone to the Fundraising Fundamentals webinar hosted by Schools Plus. My name is Melissa Simons. I'm the School Community Fundraising Officer. And this is my colleague, Beth Gibbons. She's the School Operations Manager at Schools Plus. So the purpose of this webinar is to give you a bit of an overview of fundraising for your school. We really want to help you to get your fundraising beyond the school gate, as we like to call it, or beyond the sausage sizzle or the bake sale, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So during our time together, we'll be discussing a bit about Schools Plus, who we are and our programs. Then we'll be talking about planning a fundraising project and campaign. Then we'll move into where to find funds and, you know, the age-old question of who to ask for funds. We'll do a bit of focus on grant writing. And then we'll dive into our Fundraise Yourself crowdfunding platform. Before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you very much for all of the questions. It's been really valuable to see what you're asking. We've tried to weave in the questions throughout the webinar, but if you do feel that your question's unanswered, please feel free to pop it in the chat or to send it through in the email that we'll send through later on. I'm also going to address them in an FAQ style, kind of right up at the end, which I'll send to you out in maybe next week. So logistics, I'm hoping you've all found the chat function now, but if you haven't, you can probably see it on your computer as a speech bubble, on your phone in the left-hand corner. If you wanted to give that a try now, just shout out the school that you're from and say hey to everybody. It'd be great to know where everybody's from.
And what projects you're thinking of fundraising for or looking at doing. And you've probably noticed as well that we've muted the microphones and camera just to reduce the background noise. So we're also recording this, so you'll be able to get a copy of it after. So hello, Nyngan High School. Great. And I saw we had someone from Tuncurry. Welcome.
Yeah.
That's great. So thank you everyone for joining.
All right, so we're also going to turn our video off just to minimize any distractions. We'll come back on probably at the end. All right, so let's turn that video off. All right.
Alrighty, so let's get started. So we'll just go into a little bit about Schools Plus. So Schools Plus is a national charity. We deliver high impact philanthropic support to schools in communities in need, to give students opportunities they need to fill their potential. So our organisation was brought to life by a recommendation in the 2011 review of funding for schools, so the Gonski review, enabling to make it simple, effective and tax deductible to donate to schools in need. So we're eligible to support more than 4,600 schools around Australia, so including government, Catholic and independent, all are eligible for our support. Through Schools Plus, individuals and organisations can support projects that really make a difference. So it could be in areas that you're all talking about now, so STEM and wellbeing, engagement and film, and you know, some great things that you're all doing fundraising for, and great projects that you're putting within the school. So schools that are eligible for our support, so what we consider is, it's called an ICSIA value. So this ICSIA value has been derived from the ACARA data. So you might be familiar with the My School website. So ICSIA stands for Index of Community Socio-Educational Advantage.
Big one.
So any school that is below 1,000 on the ICSIA value is eligible for our support. So you can head to the myschool.edu.au website to have a look at your ICSEA value. But we'll just put out there that anyone is welcome to join us today at our webinar, and there'll be some really great information that you can take away regardless of the value, ICSEA value of your school. So we will, there will be some things at the end that may not be applicable, but we'll get into that. So Schools Plus has funded more than 620 projects, and we've added 15.5 million to the Australian education system, which has benefited over 183,000 students. So there's a lot of great things happening. And the way that we can do that and the benefits that we provide is a tax deductibility. So we were given a unique DGR1 status, which means that we are able to provide tax deductible receipts to your donors, so donors that provide to schools. We connect with your community, so we've got a great fundraising platform, which we'll talk about in a minute and cover a little bit more later on, but enables you to go outside that school gate and connect outside with your community and give them a really easy way to support your school. We've developed loads of resources, and there's support. So myself and Melissa and the team here at Schools Plus are able to help you grow your own philanthropy, to be able to learn about that and bring that into the school and learn from others as well. So not just us, but other people within the school who and within schools in your area or beyond, by sharing success stories. And our website hosts quite a number of success stories that you can have a look at as well. So the Fundraise Yourself platform, like I said, Melissa will go through it in a lot more detail at the end, but just want to touch on it because we will reference it throughout the presentation. A number of years ago, Schools Plus developed a unique fundraising platform. So we consulted with schools and P&C, or parent and community organisations, to ask them what would they want in a fundraising platform. What do you need to be able to go out and seek donations within your community and within your networks? So we developed this online fundraising platform, enabling you to crowdfund out into the community, and your donors receive a tax deductible donation. So you're able to receive a web link once you've registered your project with Schools Plus that immediately links straight to your fundraising project. So donors can go straight on and click donate. You're able to include photos and videos, which we really encourage. It really just brings that project to life. It's simple, it's free to access, and it's built specially for schools and P&Cs to fundraise. And as I mentioned before, we've developed loads of tips and resources to help you. So lots of templates, lots of guides, and Melissa here in the team to help support you as well. So
yeah, I love chatting with the schools. So if you give me a call, I'm happy to chat about fundraising. All right, so moving into perfect projects. So at the very beginning of a fundraising campaign, you can get really excited and you might want to jump in straight away, but I would encourage you to take a step back and write a plan. It can just be short, it can be back on the back of a napkin, it can be an A4 sheet of paper, but jot down your ideas and make sure that you know who you want to involve within the project. So I would strongly discourage you to fundraise on your own. It's a group activity. It's a journey. It won't be successful if it's just you. So get as many people on board as you can. All right, so we've put together a little plan that is really simple, but if you follow these steps, you should be able to have a good idea for your plan. All right, so writing your project plan. The first thing that you need to think about is your project dates. This can be a few sets of dates to keep in mind. So your project dates would be, so for example, if you're looking to send students on an excursion, your start and finish date would be the day that they leave for the excursion and the day they return. The fundraising for this will be a different set of dates because you don't want to be fundraising while you need the money. So you'll need to take a few steps back and work out when that campaign will be best to drive. In the fundraising world, we say urgency is really great to drive donations. If you're running your campaign for a year, it's quite a long time and people will forget about it. They might see the email, be like, oh, I've got ages to donate, and they'll forget about it. If it's running for just say a month or a term, people are much more likely to join in and to donate straight away. The next part is your purpose and your beneficiaries. So why are you doing this project? For example, if you're looking to bring more library resources into your school, think about why you're doing that. Is it because your literacy rates are falling? Is it because students aren't coming into the library anymore? Think about that why. And then think about who it's going to benefit. So if it's a library project, it's probably the students. It might be the librarian. If it's a community engagement project, it will be, your families, the wider community. If it's a professional development, it'll be a teachers, might be a principal.
And try and be specific in this part as well, so that it gives you an idea around the numbers that you're wanting to support. So, is it years 7, 8, 9? How many are in those years? Those types of things. Because the more you put into this project plan, the more information you as a working group is going to have. And if someone leaves or new starts, then you've got this great document that you're able to share with everyone and everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, we know that there's a lot of movements within schools, so within P&Cs, within the teaching teams. So yeah, it's good to have this all down. And then it's good to know what you're raising money for. So I have an outline. Beth is going to talk about this in a bit more detail in a few slides' time, but have an idea of what you're actually trying to raise money for. So yes, you want library resources, but what resources do you want? Do you want STEM equipment as part of those resources? Do you want books, that kind of thing, furniture? Yeah. And it's really good.
So we've just had a question come through. Someone's just asked, with the project dates, if it's big, so I guess if the time frame's long for the project, is it worth breaking it into stages with milestones? Great question. And absolutely, we strongly encourage you to do milestones regardless, I think, of, and we were going to touch on this in the next slide, but regardless of how much you're trying to raise, it's really good to be able to put those milestones in place so that you can celebrate those wins when you do reach them. And it also helps your planning process as well. So if you've got those milestones, it's like, okay, at what point is this project a goer? Is it that, okay, well, priority 1 is to get furniture in the library. After that, at least we've got that in there. Or, priority 1 is to get the slippery slide and the softball down in the playground. Anything, next phase will be then the swings or whatever it might be. So yes, milestones are good because it can be very overwhelming if it's a long project and a big project.
Yeah, and smaller goals, they keep the team motivated as you go. So when you reach that $10,000 point, if it's a $30,000 project, you're like, yes, we've achieved this one, we can celebrate. And then you'll move into the next phase of the fundraising. All right, so other key elements of a plan would be how much does it cost? Put together a budget of how much each element is going to cost. You don't want to be raising funds without knowing, you don't want to fall short. And then think about the funding sources that you might already have access to other than your crowdfunding campaign. Are there any existing funds within the school? Are there any department funds? Are there any other organizations that you can reach out to? Any grants you can apply for? We'll be talking a lot about grants going forward, but Schools Plus can support eligible schools with grant applications. And then the last part here is, as I've mentioned, who you're going to pull into the project. So is it your principal? I recommend having the principal on board from the get-go. They need to be a champion of the project. As well, if you have a P&C, get them involved. If you're a community liaison, have the teaching staff involved. Think about if you can reach out to any alumni or suppliers that you need. It's great to have a big team because then you can delegate tasks along the way.
And it's also not just team members directly involved in the fundraising activities, but it's also the stakeholders who will be involved in the project. So think about, if you are doing the library upgrade, you're going to have to consult with the librarians or the staff within the library to see, what it is they're after and things like that, and consult with the students or, your suppliers and things. So,
like if you're doing a playground upgrade or something like that, have a chat with your with the supplier and they'll let you know like what their time frame is. Like if they need to survey the playground or something like that, that takes time and you need to consider that within your plan. All right, so moving into your project description and telling your story. Becca's going to talk you through that.
So this part is very important, we find. So it does link up into your project plan. So your project plan is going to help you solidify what it is you're actually trying to do and get down on paper clearly what are those milestones, what are those targets, who is it, who are you supporting. You're telling your story is going to help you succinctly share your message. So when you're approaching donors or you're at a meeting or you're standing with someone at the cafe and you've got this opportunity to be able to talk to them about what it is you're trying to raise funds for within the school, being able to do it in a really succinct way is going to be really helpful. So there's 3 key questions that we recommend you use to help you tell your story. So what do you want to do? So we've used an example here around VR goggles, and how gorgeous do those kids look in that photo. So we want to bring virtual reality to our classrooms. That's what we want to do. Why is it important? So here we've used an example with some numbers. So in your project plan, having those beneficiary numbers already done, you're able to then know exactly how many students it is going to benefit. So we've said here 150 students, and we've included that it's a remote location as well. So it's very pertinent for this particular project because they're looking to do VR, but it also helps the donor get an understanding of where your school is located and what those students where they are. So, and we've said here, VR will help them experience places they've never been or have the opportunity to visit. So it just gives someone a snapshot, how many, where are they, and why, and what will be the outcome for your students and or the school. So why is this, what's it going to do? Getting goggles will do what? So being able to raise funds, they'll transform classroom lessons. So you're really bringing in here some examples of what lessons they're going to be used in. And it also brings in the fact that there's technology skills that will prepare the students as well. So those key 3 questions, what do you want to do? Why is it important? And what will the outcomes for your students be? Will hopefully help you get that, that key message across. So just expanding on that a little bit more, there will be some funders if you are either putting in grants or some donors who are giving a significant amount of money. They might want a bit more information about your project. So when you are planning your project, so this is as part of your project plan, consider these questions as well. So, what are the planned activities? This is where you want to go into more detail about what exactly you're planning on doing and what those activities are. So obviously this is going to depend on your project, but some projects do have elements of planning and integration into the classroom. So for example, a kitchen garden, there's this stage of establishing the garden, which includes getting a quote, building it, figuring out how it's going to be integrated into the class, getting teachers across on how to integrate it into their classroom. So there's some of the planned activities that are part of your project planning. What are the expected outcomes of this project? So this is an area to provide more detail. So here you're going to have to think in terms of numbers and be more specific. So what would the increase in the use of the library be? If you buy X number of robotic kits, how is that going to translate into kids' knowledge? So that's those expected outcomes. So if we buy those VR goggles, what is those outcomes going to be? And then how will you measure the project's results? So this is really important, and a lot of grantees will ask for this. And it's good to have a think about this at the start of your project so that you can have your baseline measures already in place before you kick off on that project. So have a think about, what might it be? What might some of those measures be? And it could be multiple, but, is it number of students attending something? Is it a shift in the usage? Is it changes in kids' knowledge? Number of students using a particular program? So just having a think about what those measures might be that is going to fit in with what your project is.
All right, moving on to the next slide. So now that you have a plan for your project, we're going to talk through where to find your funds and how to engage people to actually give a little bit of money. All right, so these are what we refer to as your school gate. These are people that you probably worked with when you've been doing traditional school funding. So they're your families, teachers, P&C students. And we know that within disadvantaged communities, there might be a bit of a financial burden. So I wouldn't recommend pushing too much this area for donations. We recommend using this group of people as your champions to get the message out to a wider audience. For example, your families, if they're working, they'll be working in a business that might have a little bit of money to donate, or their colleagues might be happy to support. It's great at the beginning of a project to do a bit of a brainstorming session with this group of people, and find out who has contacts, who's got contacts in the local media, who knows somebody that works for the local law firm or the accountant, that kind of thing. So really pushing out into what we call your community connections. So as I've said, your families, teachers, P&Cs, that they will have friends and colleagues that they can explain the project to and ask for donations. If they're happy to, you could even do up a template for social media, and they can share it on their own social media.
Because they'll become your champions for your project as well. So, sporting groups. So, have a think if there's any sporting groups in your area that would be able to support what you're doing. And that's from your local sporting group through to potentially AFL clubs or some of the larger organisations, particularly if the project aligns with what they're doing. And that applies to a lot of what we'll be talking about around who to approach, is thinking, how does this align with them, and how can I get their interest in supporting what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Religious groups, school suppliers. So school suppliers, a lot of external companies provide supplies within the school. So whether that's, the canteen or the stationery or office supplies, have a chat to your principal or your business manager if appropriate to approach these suppliers for support. And that might be in kind, so it might not be a financial donation. It could be in-kind support, or it could be a financial donation that they want to give back. They've seen firsthand your school and the difference that their support can make. So they're a good one to approach.
Yeah, definitely. And your local council or your local member of parliament is actually quite an interesting one for us at the moment. We've had a bit of success with schools reaching out to their local members. We've had a few donations come in. And the approach we would recommend for somebody like this is, if you don't have their contact details are actually quite easy to find online. So you can reach out to them via email or via phone. You'll probably get an EA or something like that. But you can try and set up a phone meeting or an in-person meeting, or, invite them out to the school to be able to share your story and really get them engaged. They MPs in particular, they like a nice feel-good photo opportunity to show that they're actively engaged within their community, they're supporting their local school, and that kind of thing. So like I said, if they want to donate, get them to come out to the school.
And a lot of them have funding allocated to support organisations in the community, particularly schools. So if you haven't already, we strongly recommend approaching your local council member to see.
Yeah, and if they can't support, they might be able to point you in the direction of any grants that they have available. Or they talk to other people within their networks, and you don't know who they can be letting you know. As long as you've got that project up and your pitch ready, you'll be good to go.
Yep.
So on the topic of local grants and council grants, as I mentioned before, if you're eligible for the support of Schools Plus, we can actually help you to apply for grants that require a DGR1 or a charitable status. So the process for that is you identify a grant that you'd like to apply for, send it through to Schools Plus. We will be like, yep, okay, this is good for you guys to apply for. The school works on the application, and then we submit on behalf of the school. So if you're not sure, you can just send us an email and ask us. But we've found that it's a really valuable tool for schools to use to apply for grants that they might not originally be able to access. And then for local business, local industry, have a chat with your families, who's connected to what. And for local media, I strongly recommend that all fundraising campaigns for schools write a media release and have that ready to go when you launch. Send it out to your local newspaper, your local radio, if there's any podcasts in your area, try and spread the message as far as possible.
Our local, they're always looking for good stories, and if you've got a great story to tell. And we've also created a media release template, because I know they're one thing that I was never
confusing,
a little confusing, a little daunting. So we've taken that away for you, and we've created that media release template that you can just populate with your story. So, but get in touch with the team here if that's something you do want to do as well.
Yeah, and a big focus should be some quotes from your principal, from the students. Get your students to talk about how much this project means to them. It's really important. All right, so moving into your extended network. So hopefully the people that you've made connections with can connect you out now to this bigger network. So for example, not-for-profit organisations. So if you're doing a breakfast program, you might want to contact organisations like Oz Harvest or Eat Up, Second Bite, that kind of thing. And you might not have to raise as much money as you first anticipated, because they'll have food and things like that can help you.
And there are a lot of not-for-profits that do in-school programs as well. So if you are looking at doing a after-work club or something within the school, have a Google, just Google not-for-profits and see if they have a program that is either a really small fee per student, and that's all you have to fundraise, or free. So that's something to do. So business chambers, this is, most areas, local areas will have a business chamber. So jump online and Google your business chamber, and that will have a list of a list of organisations. So this is a good way to start building that database of people you're going to approach. And you can look through that list. You can share it with your, the families and your supporters to see if anyone knows anyone that works there, and that will help you just build that that database.
And if there's any like meetings from the business
Yep.
chambers, or
so
moving around a little bit further, if there's any community groups, for example, your local Rotary, Country Women's Association, that kind of thing, if you pitch your project to them, say via email, via phone, or if you know somebody, you might get an invitation out to speak, and that's a really valuable opportunity for you. Don't turn that down, because it's an opportunity to pitch a message to the wider group. And if you take along some students, show the group exactly how the funds are going to benefit the students, or the teachers, or whoever you're helping. It's a really good way to potentially get a nice donation.
Yep. So grants we'll talk about in a minute, and we have touched on that a bit. So applying for those grants, and looking at your past teachers and your alumni who've been to the school and who've been connected. Again, it might not be financial support they can provide, but it might be that they're able to share their own story of being at the school and how the donation will make a difference, and share it within their networks as well.
Yeah, and you can set up a really simple alumni program by setting up a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page to try and connect with your alumni. It takes a little bit of work to get started, but start inviting the ones that you already know.
Yeah.
And then posting things like school photos, getting people to tag in their friends, and you can build it that way, and you can keep them updated on the school. And then once they've you work that in a bit, then you can ask for some donations.
Yeah, we've had some really great success stories with schools that have had alumni making quite sizable donations back to their schools. So
yeah.
All right.
So now that you know who you're going to approach, we're going to talk about how you're going to reach them. So within your school gate, it's great to let people know by putting a notice in your newsletter about the fundraising, announcing it on assembly for the students to know about, sending a message out in your school app.
And this also is a great way to launch your project as well. So something that, can build that sense of excitement, and people know this is what the focus is for the school fundraising for this term or the rest of the year or whatever it might be. But being able to put that out and make that announcement. And another idea we've seen schools do is put thermometers or measurement goals in the school office. So when guests come to the school, they're able to see how far the fundraising target's been reached, what you're actually fundraising for, and it's just another way to reach people that come into the school outside of that school gate.
Yeah, and we've got templates like that as well.
Yes,
we've got a fundraising, revamped fundraising thermometer that I did a few months ago, so you can have a look at that. So also sharing your message to social media. This is a really great tool to be able to create awareness about the project. But I do want to say that it's not a set and forget medium. You need to be posting at least once a week about the project. You don't have to ask for donations every time you post. You can share updates, you can share photos, video, thank the people that have donated already, but make sure that on your social media accounts that you are being consistent with how you're communicating. We've banged on a lot about applying for grants, and Beth is going to do a bit of a run through. Another really valuable thing you can do, we say email out to your contacts, that kind of thing. But, if you can pick up the phone and call somebody about the project, I'd highly recommend you do that. You can share your passion for the project, and then, you can either invite them to a meeting to learn more, or if you feel comfortable, you can make the ask.
Yeah.
I'm a millennial. I don't like calling, but it is really valuable for a school. So you just got to bite the bullet and do it. The same with your, as we mentioned for the newsletters and assembly announcement, include the URL that you're using if you're using Fundraise yourself or if you're using another crowdfunding campaign platform, to include the URL at the very least on your school website, on the homepage. You know, if somebody hears about the project just by word of mouth and they're searching madly for the project, you know, if they find your school website, they'll be able to see it right there. You don't want to miss out on any donations.
Present to community groups or businesses. So we touched on this before. So this is a great way to get in front of people and be able to share your story face to face. You know, tailor that presentation for who it is that you are presenting to, and you know, it doesn't have to be a super fancy PowerPoint presentation. That's great if you can do that. Keep it authentic. You know, you might be inviting a student along or sharing some photos, and you know, using your 30-second pitch to be able to share that message and present that to them. We talked about emailing as well, so it can be shared easily and getting that word out there. And a handwritten card. You know, cut through the letters and the emails. You know, there might be select people that you really want to approach personally, and write a nice card. It could be a message from a student. It could be from the principal. It could be from a teacher or anyone. Just a nice card and asking, you know, that you'd love to get in touch and share more about the project.
Yeah, and just quickly going back to social media and email, from our data, we've found that people are most generous on Thursdays, randomly, not the weekend or the beginning of the week. We've consistently seen each month that, we get the most donation on a Thursday. So think about sending your messaging out early on Thursday morning, or, you know, on Wednesday evening, but also having a look at your own social media trends. Yeah,
and also don't be afraid to email someone more than once, or approach them. You know, we've all done it. You've received an email, yes, I'm going to support them, and then you forget, and it's that prompter that reminds you to go out and support them again. So unless obviously they said no and don't do it, but you know, email or approach them more than once, because we've found, you know, there's that 8-4-1 ratio. Approach 8, 4 are going to be interested, and 1 will donate. So the 4 that are interested might not be right for them right now, or it might be something that you know, they can't donate, or the project doesn't appeal to them. But don't be afraid to approach them again next time you're fundraising.
Yeah, and we just had a question here. Somebody has asked if we'll be sending the slides. So we're recording this, so we'll be sending the recording out. And I can also put the slides in as well if you want those, no problem. Okay, so moving into what we're really encouraging schools to do this year is try to put together a video that is about your fundraising and your fundraising campaign. It doesn't have to be polished. You know, in the world of fundraising, you know, if it's put together with an iPhone,
being authentic.
It's authentic. It's from you. You're not some professional body that doesn't really need the funds. You are genuinely in need. Get students to talk about, again, how the project is going to help them. So I just wanted to show you, it's a 3-minute video. I'm really hoping the audio is going to come through, and then, but if it doesn't, we've got subtitles there. So, all right, this is a video from Colac Specialist School, and they're raising money for a wheelchair accessible minibus.
The school is a specialist school, so we have kids who IQs are 70 and below. We also have students who have autism, physical disabilities, severe behaviour disorder. As a regional special school, we cater for a diverse set of needs.
Having a school bus, and it doesn't matter if it's rain, hail or shine, he can still go on a school excursion with his class, with his teachers, and you know, just be included in that.
We have our students who are involved in swimming, in sports, they do shopping, they do community access, they go to Anzac ceremonies, they go to all sorts of different things.
We go to like shops we need to go, or like if we're going to cooking, we'll go to Coles or Safeway and get our ingredients and then go back.
Sometimes we go like excursions and that with our class and that.
We go to Warrnambool for sports day. We take it like to Adventure Park every year.
Every trip on a bus is another experience to something new. For Sylvester, social interaction has been a challenge for him, and we've seen huge gains in his ability to be able to go out into the community, and that's been a real benefit.
So our current bus is quite old, it's about 20 odd years old. You need an endorsed licence to drive it, so it limits the number of staff that can take it out, and realistically it's not far away from needing the wreckers.
The variety bus we do have, it's getting the job done at the moment, but it's nowhere near what it needs to be. Having a bus that doesn't need a special requirement licence will be huge for us to be able to get out and do more things.
For us to lose our school bus would be devastating as far as running our school programs.
We'd need to hire a bus and hire a driver, which means that the school, which doesn't have the money for that, would have to ask parents and carers and grandparents, a lot who are doing it tough, to contribute to that trip.
Without the bus to be able to take them to those activities and to have that normalisation of experience, these kids aren't going to be independent. They're not going to learn those life skills that we take for granted.
There's so many limits in their life at the moment anyway, so why add another one? Bus can make such a difference.
I think from a community point of view, it would be really fantastic if we could all come together and give them the support that they really deserve and help them achieve this goal.
It would mean the world to me and my friends if you guys could help us raise money for our new school bus.
Can you please donate some money for the bus, if you don't mind? Be generous.
I think it'd be really great if you would donate some money towards our bus.
So that is a very sweet video from Colac Specialist School. I just wanted to touch quickly on, I'm just going to move away from this slide because it's not very exciting. Let's go. Yeah, there we go, that's better. All right, so the key ingredients to a great video is what is the need? So it's quite obvious that the school needs a new bus. They've talked about their old one and it being, run down. Why it's needed, the students, if they can engage within their community, they feel like they're involved, and it really improves engagement and academic levels and that kind of thing. And then the most important thing to have at the end is a really succinct ask. I've seen a lot of fundraising videos, they talk about it, but then they don't get to the point and ask for donations. So it doesn't really matter how you do it. Be polite, but just make sure that you have a nice ask at the end.
Yeah, and that comes back to that work you would have done at the top around your 30-second pitch. So those 3 points, you've already got them. That forms that plan to put bigger things together. Great video.
Yes. Very good. All right, so Beth's going to talk about some grant writing tips.
Yes, so we have spoken about that, this is something a lot of schools are doing a lot more of, and it is something we're able to support schools with using our DGR1 status. So just some things that we found that have been really useful and helpful when putting grant applications together. So research the grant maker and read the guidelines. So the guidelines are there to help you. They're there to really give you all the information possible, and it's so, so important to read them first. It will give you, a lot of the time, it actually provides the questions in it with some guiding tips and assistance about what they're actually looking for. Have a look at the grant maker's website, see what, do they align with what you're trying to do? What is it that they're, will fund or won't fund? Is that what you're applying for? What's the size of the grant? So if you are seeking a substantial amount of money, how is this grant going to help you reach that target? So is it only going to be a portion of it? Is it going to be the full amount? And have a look at who they've supported previously so that you can target your application better. Make sure you're eligible, and the guidelines will have an eligibility criteria within them. And a lot of applications are knocked out in that first cull because the application is ineligible. They've just done a scattergun, they've just put in an application and they've actually not read those guidelines. So for example, some grant makers can only give to organisations with a deductible gift recipient, DGR1 status. So if you want to apply, that's where we can come in, but if you apply to them directly, you won't be eligible to apply. Be clear, concise, compelling and specific. So answer the questions directly and clearly and specific as possible. So for instance, saying our aim is to increase student attendance from 65% to 80% is better than we aim to increase student attendance. So again, this is coming back to that project plan. You've done that work up top to be able to get those numbers and have an idea about what it is you're doing. Tell a compelling story throughout the application. So explain what the current situation is and the need, why you've chosen that particular approach, what activities you'll undertake and who's going to benefit. And avoid using acronyms or jargon. So right for the layperson, don't assume they know education speak. Don't assume they'll know what a FZY person is. Really just spell it out so that they understand that and make it clear and concise.
Yeah, and one thing that I wanted to say was, we tell students to read the question before they answer, and it's really the same with grant writing. Make sure you read and then answer the actual question that they're posing.
That they're asking.
Yeah, so if they're asking for outcomes, give outcomes that are measurable, that kind of thing. If they're asking for how you're going to measure success, make sure you're saying it'll be student surveys, it'll be attendance, it'll be that kind of thing. Make it really specific. Yeah, that's really important.
Right. So include a clear and thorough budget, and one thing also to think about as well is when you are reading, I should mention this at the start, but when you're reading the guidelines and having a look at what the grant's about, make sure that you're able to actually meet all of the requirements the grant maker is asking. So it's not just putting the application in. Often they'll want you to equip the funds or give updates, and that might be a 6-month update and a 12-month update. You might need to provide receipts. You might need to spend the money within a certain time frame. And if you can't do that, then you can't meet what the grantee is asking for. So it's worth either rethinking about it or not applying at all. But so put in a clear and thorough budget. Funders want to know where their money's going to go. So be specific about those budget items. Explain if it's equipment, what is it that's going to be purchased? So 10 iPads, 25 textbooks, 5 VR goggles, or is it funding salary or professional development? Okay, so it's 5 days of salary at $400 a day. That's $2,000 or whatever it might be, or 2 staff members to attend 1-day training. So really be specific around that, and make sure your budget items match what it is your story is telling. We've had situations where we get to the budget and they talk about a bus and we're like, what? The application never mentioned anything about a bus. So just make sure that budget flows and your story flows and it matches. And submit the application on time. This is so important. Yes. And make sure you are looking at daylight savings time. Make sure you count in for, the computer breaking, internet going down, anything like that. We've had situations where schools have tried to submit at 1 minute to closing time and then their computer crashes. And often, they're automated systems and they will cut off straight away and there's nothing that people can do. So try and, work on that application plan ahead. Think about who it is that needs to read that application, because you do want someone to read that application with fresh eyes. So giving them enough time to read it and provide feedback and make that feedback changes and, who's doing the final sign off. So just planning that into your timeline as well. So try not to leave that to the last minute. And and then finally,
I'm going to talk about just quickly, because I know we are running a little bit close to time. We've got 10 minutes to go. But these are some databases that I've found to be quite useful on the hunt for grants. So I have 4 here that you can have a look at. 2 are free to use and 2 are paid. However, they do have a 14-day free trial. Take a screenshot of this page if you want to get stuck in straight away, or you can wait for the recording. My favorite is the Grants Hub. It's really user-friendly and it has a lot of grants on there. So have a dig around. If you find something you like the look of, send us an email and we can see how we can help. All right, so moving into saying thank you. So once you've done all of this, your donations will start to come in, and it's really important to be saying thank you to your donors. So this establishes a relationship with your donors. It's just, it's courtesy. And also if you're looking to do a fundraising campaign again, it's what we call stewardship in fundraising. It's, making sure that they're updated, and if you're fundraising again, they might be likely to give again, or might like to give again at a bigger level.
Yeah, so we've listed some ideas here that you can see, from getting quotes to thank you cards, invitation to assembly. And these thank you ideas might vary depending on how much the donor has donated. So you potentially might not invite a $20 donor to an assembly, but depending on who they are, you might save that one for someone who makes a more sizable donation. So and be prepared to report back to the grant maker, as I said as well. There might be some acquittals that you'll have to do. So,
but keep your eye on who is the donor, because if it's your local MP giving $50, they might be able to give a little bit more. So do the invite, that kind of thing.
That's right.
Okay, so in summary, don't be afraid to ask for donations or to apply for grants. The biggest fear in fundraising is the actual ask, but work your way up to it. Ask for funds from people that you know are friendly, that you already have contacts with, and have some quick and easy wins, and that will build your confidence, and then you'll be calling people in no time. If somebody says no, Beth mentioned this, not a no forever. Don't be afraid to ask again. All right. So we're going to move into the Schools Plus fundraising Fundraise Yourself platform, and I'm going to go over to our live site. If you don't see the live site come up in a few minutes, just give me a shout on chat. So just to begin, the Fundraise Yourself platform, this is what it looks like when you have a project all up and running. You can see this is Chifley Public School. They've created a great fundraising campaign. It's closed now, but they smashed their goal. They wanted 10,500 to fund laptops within their school, and they completely did that. So jumping over to our Schools Plus website. So website should be up now. So when you log on to schoolsplus.org.au, you'll see a few tabs come up. Head to the For Schools tab and then log in and register. So we're going to go through the registration. So this is a completely new school, and we're going to hit this register button. So within the registration, you'll see some things that you need to complete your registration. So for example, your school logo and a JPEG. This is where it's important to have your principal across, because you'll need to put their email address and phone number in. Add in your details and have your school bank account details if you're outside of New South Wales. New South Wales government schools, we know you have the central banking system, so there's a tick box within the registration to show that. Have a read of our school registration guidelines, and then you'll be ready to tick these all off. You're ready to start the registration process. Okay, so when you get to this point, you'll see a point here where you will find a drop box of your school. So we'll just use a random one here.
So we've preloaded all eligible schools into the system. So you're able to, if you're eligible, you can start typing and your school will appear.
Yeah.
Make it easy.
Yeah. And if you're already registered and maybe somebody else has registered for you, it'll come up with a little error message. And if you don't know who registered, send us an email and we can send you your details. Then hit next. Then this is where you'll input that information that I chatted through before, which is your logo, principal information, contact detail, bank account, and then you'll hit submit. But I'm going to go to one that I prepared a little earlier. So when you are done, you'll get access to your school dashboard. This is our test account that we use. You'll see here that you'll have your dashboard is there, your account information where you can change contact details, your projects, your project budgets, and your resources. This resources section is where you should head first. It will have all of, the planning resources, the media release template, emails, that kind of thing. If you have any donors that would like to give more than $500, we would recommend sending them a donation form. This lets them send through the donation to Schools Plus via check or bank deposit. Still to be tax deductible, but it avoids those credit card processing fees. You can see the fundraising thermometer in there, that kind of thing. So then we'll head to the My Projects tab. This is where you can create your brand new fundraising project. So hit create there. And while that loads. Okay, so this is where you set up your fundraising campaign.
This is where your project plan again is going to come in handy, because all the info on that is essentially what you'll be popping in here.
Yeah, so if you've got that down pat, it'll just be really a copy and paste job over. So again, the project details, having a great project name will engage your donors to donate. Thinking about how many students and their beneficiaries. This is where you plug in your great project description.
We've given you some tips on what to include there, and there's also some resources about writing a good project description. So that's there.
Video and images, like we've talked about, you can add those to your project. Donation levels are quite important. It does say optional, but we do encourage schools to do that. You know, it's, for example, $20 will purchase this, $50 will purchase that. So add those in. It gives donors a nice incentive to maybe give a little more if they're only planning to give $25 and you have a dollar handle or donation level for $30. They might say, oh, I can give it $5 more. Your budget again. And then the page is scrolling. And then, your declaration and privacy statement. And so you'll end up with what Chifley had, something very similar. You'll see the title, your goal, the donation levels down the side, and your project description. All right, so I guess in summary, to get started with Fundraise Yourself, step 1 is to register your school via our website. Step 2, register your project. And then step 3 is spread the message far and wide. So get as many people as you can on board.
All right, so that concludes our webinar. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We really loved having you on board, and thank you for your engagement. So hopefully that's just given you some ideas around fundraising outside of the school gate and some people to approach, and being able to share those success stories and what you're doing. So please get in touch. Melissa's contact details are there. Subscribe to our newsletter via our website, because we will be sending out some opportunities that Schools Plus has that can support your schools. So subscribe to the newsletter so you can be across that, and follow us on all the socials. We will be sending a email after this with the recording of the video, and we're going to include a short survey as well, just about the webinar, just to help us improve and to continue to provide content that's going to be relevant for schools. So please take a moment to fill that in. But thank you so much, and have a wonderful afternoon and evening.
Yes. Bye-bye.